morning. It is morning huddle time. I'm Chad Prinky here alongside Stacy Holzinger, as always.
The nature of the beast is the competitive nature of the industry.
Is if you can see it, you can be it.
It's all about the people. The people are what make it great and worthwhile.
Yeah, anything that I think helps build the story behind the company is great.
These are the things that that you're like, we don't need that because we have plenty of work right now. Got it. But if you don't do it now, where are you going to have work in the future? The Morning Huddle Construction Show is fortunate to have 5 sponsors for Season 7, helping us to spread the word and create positive change in the construction industry. And we want to give a shout out to each of them and thank them now. First is Katz Abosch. This is a middle market accounting firm with a deep specialization in construction, tax, audit, accounting, fantastic group of people. Next is Lawrence Law. This is a boutique law firm that works with contractors and helps them with their day-to-day legal needs as well as all of their most significant legal challenges that they might run up against. Lawrence Law. Then we have Sandy Spring Bank, which is a regional bank in Maryland with a group of people who really understand what the needs of construction businesses are and who partner with you to achieve your financial aims. So Sandy Spring Bank. And then we have Marsh McLennan Agency, bonding and insurance professionals who really just have unparalleled insight into the construction industry. They're the best in the business. And then lastly, we have Genesis AEC. And Genesis is a full service architecture, engineering, and construction management firm with a deep specialization in the life sciences industry. We also happen to have some of their folks help us with guest hosting from time to time. It's morning huddle time. Stacy, what is happening? Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Craziness.
Sorry. It said the Eagles won.
The Eagles won. That's what's going on.
Yep. Going to Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's, I was lamenting that it's like we're living in a world of repeats where it's, the same few teams that are just,
I
but
wish the Bills won. I'm over the Chiefs. I think most people are.
It's, but
again.
And I'm kind of over enough the Eagles, but whatever. I'll be rooting for the Eagles. Darn it. I'll be, I in all sincerity, I really, when it comes to sports, I notice the older I get, and it's evidently happening quickly, getting old, by the way. But I've noticed the older I get, the more I'm interested in sports for kind of like the visual experience of leadership and teamwork and lack thereof on display. And Saquon Barkley to me is an incredible leader. Watching him out there, so I'm rooting for Saquon Barkley. He's incredible. I'm sure there's more, but there are so many things. Not only is he just ridiculously talented, he's also just setting such an incredibly high standard for what it looks like to be a teammate. And when he powered in that first touchdown on Sunday, he immediately just kind of like flew right through the end zone, right over to the sideline, just hyping up his teammates. And, you could tell he was just like, let's keep it going. Let's get to work. Let's get to work.
You need more of that.
Yeah, we do. And there's so many. And look, the celebrations are, this is again how I know I'm old. Celebrations are they drive me crazy. I see him like do the dance in the end zone.
Oh, I love that part.
I'm sure you do, and I know most people do. But I'm evidently a crotchety old man, and when I see that stuff, I'm like, come on, act like you've been there before, And I think about guys like Barry Sanders, right? When he would score a touchdown, he just immediately hand the football to the ref and go straight to the sideline. It was like Saquon's kind of a good hybrid. He's a throwback in that sense. He is he doesn't do nothing. He gets hyped up and he celebrates, but he doesn't seem to make it all about him, which I think there's something cool. There's something cool about the impact of that on a team and in a locker room. When your best player isn't saying it's all about me, that's a pretty good thing.
Definitely.
And most wide receivers, I know he's not a wide receiver, but my Lord, most wide receivers could take a page out of that book. My God, wide receivers drive me crazy. They think they're the only people on the team. It's as a Steelers fan, I'm just saying everybody knows who I'm talking about. I don't need to trash talk him here, but you know who I'm talking about. There's somebody that we need to make a decision about on the Steelers. He's a mess. He's a mess in the locker room. Damn it. So what have you been up to? Tell me a little bit for a moment. Tell me about this Chat CTE. What's going on? I know this has been a big project for you, and it's gotten a lot of traction. I just love to hear a little bit about
Yeah.
it.
So we got more funding, which is awesome. So we're going to continue with it for another year. We have Hannah from Salary Transparent Street. She's going to be joining us on the huddle, and that's who
Yeah.
I got the idea from. She's out in the DMV doing interviews, all different types of careers, promoting salary transparency. Pretty sure she had a role in the October 1st law in Maryland where you have to put at least a salary range in all your job descriptions
Yep.
and be transparent about that. So I've talked to her and I'm niching down her idea a little bit differently, working with the local school systems and working with contractors and going to the job sites and interviewing construction workers
Awesome.
just to get their voice heard on why they got into where they are, all their different journeys from, being a business owner to starting out in the skilled trades or moving into the office, like all different stories out there. So, and we wanted to keep it locally, but we're getting pulled out nationally, which is really exciting. So we'll be at the Skills USA Tennessee competition, and
Sweet.
then we got invited to San Diego and in July to interview a bunch of CT instructors. So the ultimate goal for the channel on TikTok and Instagram, we were a little nervous about TikTok.
Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, don't breathe too big a sigh of relief. We don't know how that's going to
Yeah,
play
we
out
don't
yet.
know. But it's been doing its job so far. So I'm really proud of the channel and
That's
the
awesome.
people behind it. So it's been good.
Good. Well, congrats on your success with that. That's
Thanks.
it's exciting stuff and meaningful work. I always marvel at how you get your energy from truly giving a voice to the industry. So it's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Do you have anything up this week?
Nothing. I've got
Yeah,
nothing
right.
going on. I'm
Any
just
boot
hanging out.
camps coming up,
I
leadership?
do. Yeah, I do. We'll talk about it at the end. I want to get our guest on. So I've got today we have Bill Mandara. Bill is. Let me get this format where we wanted it. There we go. Cool. Bill, thank you so much for joining us on the huddle.
Thank you. I'm also a sad Jet fan talking about football. So.
Yeah. I could look. It's
New-
it's just a
new-
game, right? It's just a game.
New coach, hope springs eternal.
Hope springs eternal. Yeah, isn't it funny? We go back to the well. We're like, this is the
Cycle.
year.
It's never the year.
It's never the year, man. So Bill Mandara is the CEO of Mancini Duffy, an architecture firm with about 130 people spread out across the U.S., highly diversified in high stakes sectors like aviation and life sciences. Bill's here to talk about all kinds of fun stuff, but we're going to talk about project repositioning. We're going to talk about VR. But most importantly, to start, Bill, I just think it'd be great to hear your story. I mean, when we talked in preparation for this, show, I was so impressed to hear the kind. I know you're going to be like, rolling your eyes about it being impressed, but seriously, there's something really, cool about your story, scaling from 40 to 130 people. And so maybe just start off by telling us a little bit about you, Mancini Duffy, the story, that kind of stuff, just for context for our audience.
Yeah, sure thing. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up in a family where my dad was a contractor, grandfather was a contractor, and it was pretty much, this is the next step you're going to for the family to take is you're going to be an architect. So it's kind of predetermined. Wasn't necessarily where my heart was, but I was
Yeah, it's like
always and still am a musician. But I always say I'm a failed musician who does architecture. But
both
anyway,
are arts.
yes. Some more fun than others, but I yeah. So worked in the field, went to college, got a job out of school at a small firm, took an opportunity to work at a firm and start an office I could run in New Jersey for a New York City firm, which went well until it didn't in 2008, 2009, so to speak, like a lot of people. You know, that firm had a lot of financial sector clients. So, as to be expected, that firm did not fare very well during
Right.
that period of time.
Yeah.
That firm was ultimately acquired by Mancini Duffy in 2011. And I really wasn't too interested in working for Mancini Duffy at the time, quite honestly. Nothing against any of the folks there. It was in New York City. I lived and worked in New Jersey. I had a nice, comfortable setup where I could go be there for my kids, go to their plays and all that stuff, and still be back at work, and nobody even noticed I was gone. So it was a big shift going into the city every day. Thankfully, some of the partners there were quite gracious, and because I had a lot of projects in New Jersey, let me work from home for a few days a week. So it all worked out. And in 2013, Ralph Mancini, who was one of the, was obviously Mancini Duffy, he he saw that the current ownership was a bit fractured and was starting to, I want to say age out, but starting to get a little long in the tooth, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Um, and he brought in who's now my business partner, Christian Giordano. He sought him out and brought him in to effect an ownership transition. I knew Christian. We got along quite well immediately. We became friends, and within a week or two, he brought it to me. He said, "Look, I'm was brought here to do this. I need somebody to do it with me, or would you like to do it?" And at the time, I had been doing quite a bit of freelance work and was really considering doing my own thing, whatever that would mean and entail. But at the time, with two young kids and health insurance and college down the road and all that stuff, it was a little bit of a riskier proposition. So I took a leap of faith, joined him and Christian, and we acquired the firm eventually in 2017.
Mhm.
But again, the prior leadership and ownership was very gracious in letting us start to run the firm and start to make some changes. In about 2014, when that started, we were about 40, 50 people or so. Um, most of the people from the firm where I was with that was acquired had either left or been let go. It was just two cultures that didn't quite mesh very well. Um, so there was a lot of work to be done, but it was actually an amazing opportunity. And what we did was we started to bring in people that we thought reflected the culture and values that we wanted to have. We started giving some opportunities to people who would have an idea. We'd say, go for it, rather than, spending money on this or that. Let's spend money on that. And at the end of the day, it's grown now to, like you mentioned, about 130 people. We have several offices. And all of those people that had those ideas are now, in leadership roles and have flourished. Those ideas have helped propel us to where we are now. Quite frankly, it's been an amazing run so far, and we're just kind of getting started.
I love it. There's a couple of things that jumped out to me in that story. Just, one is that your growth was almost, you tell me if you agree or disagree with this thought. Seems like it was almost a natural outgrowth of you just funding what people were passionate about, and putting your bets behind some um, folks that you believed in, and that they were fired up about something. So it was like, hey, rather than spending our money over here where I think I should spend it, maybe, if you're fired up about it, here's some support, here's some resources, go make
Absolutely.
it happen.
Yep. Absolutely. That's 100% accurate.
It sounds easy.
Yeah, it
You
is. It's easy. Well, listen, I mean, a lot of it, quite frankly, is the right people, having the right people that you
right.
can trust. And um, again, hiring, I always try to make sure that whenever we bring people on, I bring people on that are a lot smarter than me. On the surface, that doesn't seem that difficult, but a lot of people don't do that. Ego can get in the way of those things, but
Yeah.
it is super important. Like I said, I always try and bring people on that I think are way smarter than me and eventually would put me out of a job.
Yeah, I mean that's a great mindset for growing a business, and it to put you in a position where the thing grows without your forcing it, right? It just kind
For
of
sure. For sure.
happens. So it sounds like it also happened. Another thing that jumped out to me in the story is that it sounds like it also happened in diverse market sectors and maybe even geographies. This growth, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I mentioned before, in 2009, the firm where I worked for was pretty well grounded in financial institutional work, and that obviously didn't work out well. So one of the things that was a deliberate thing that we wanted to do was to diversify our practice. Having worked early on in a smaller firm, I was exposed to many different types of work. I mean, I did everything from daycare centers to storage buildings to industrial to office buildings to office fit outs to medical. I mean, you name it, you literally just kind of did whatever came in the door, including residential, whatever. So I always had that background. And when I started working in New York and I started seeing that firms were more segmented and specialized, I was like, well, that's great until one of those things falls apart.
Yeah.
So, we were able to leverage a lot of what my background was, as well as what Christian's background was initially. I mean, he had a lot of broadcast broadcast experience as well. So we were able to leverage that, and we were able to bring in people. I mean, we brought in a gentleman who's has 25 years of life sciences experience about 3 years ago, and that's been a sector that's grown for us. We acquired a firm 3 years ago that did primarily healthcare and multifamily residential. Those have been booming practices. And then conversely, to the point before, we had a gentleman, we had an airport lounge that just kind of came to us, oddly enough, through an opportunity from one of our former partners. And he did that. And he was like, guys, I really like doing this work. I really like doing work in airports. Can I have your support trying to grow this? And quite frankly, now, I mean, gosh, that's probably 10 years ago. We have a full aviation practice doing
Wow.
jobs all over the country. We're doing jobs internationally right now, quite frankly, from back of house work to lounges to you name it, to head house stuff. So that's a whole practice that really came out of somebody wanting to do that work.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah. So you wanted to make sure you were very intentional not to create that same market sector risk. You wanted to create that diversification across market sectors, and that combined with some great people
For
uh,
sure.
has helped to fuel it. And it sounds like once you got that underway, that also helped you to attract some other great folks that could help to blow out those practices.
Absolutely. And again, I can't stress enough. It's about having the right people that know what they're doing and are invested in success and making the company work. I mean, listen, we did a handful of restaurants before 2020. And oddly enough, 2020, I guess, whether it was government funding or whatever, we are now a restaurant expert. We do restaurants all over the country. We
Huh.
do everything from Michelin star high-end restaurants to to kind of places where you'd go and watch the Jets lose on a Sunday, right? Everything and everything
I've
in
done that
between.
at a
And
Michelin restaurant, actually.
well, I'm usually at the stadium with my poor son, but yeah, but yeah, no, that's a perfect example of something that's just grown. And now we have, I mean, now I would put our restaurant group against any firms.
That's awesome.
It's a great practice for us.
How cool is that? How cool is that? And the last thought that I have just about your story, and then I want to talk about repositioning, is that sometimes you're surprised at your outcomes, right? Like you started off by saying, I didn't really have interest in not only getting into architecture, like you've been reluctantly successful, which is a really, which is a really funny,
That's one way of
thing. So,
putting it.
meaning, sometimes you just don't, you're thrust into situations and opportunities present themselves and they become
Mhm.
great for you, as opposed to actively seeking a career in architecture and then actively seeking to become the CEO of Mancini Duffy, right? Like these are things that just sort of happened around you and opportunities that presented themselves, not necessarily things that you were fighting for or hungry for, which is just an interesting, tidbit. I don't know. Do you have any reflection
You're
on that?
going with the flow.
Yeah, going with the flow, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's for sure. I mean, look, my mother would always say, Billy, just everything happens for a reason. But there's been a lot of times in my career where something really bad happened, and I was like, oh boy, and that's actually turned out to be, a huge blessing or the harbinger for something better to happen. And look, I mean, a lot of that in my case was because I do work a lot. I've always, even early on in my career, you know, I would take work home over the weekend and get it done because I do spend a bit more money. If I have $5, I'll spend 10. So, I was kind of necessitated by that. But um, listen, I contribute a lot of what I know how to do and everything from doing that freelance work over the years. And quite frankly, that was by necessity. When we had our first son, my wife went back to work and she requested a little bit of flexibility and they were like, no. So it wound up, she wound up staying home with the kids, which wound up being a great thing, but it was a little bit of a financial need there. So I found myself, nights and weekends, whatever, going, and whether it was everything from people's apartments to climbing up on a roof somewhere in New York City to document a air conditioner that needed to be replaced or something like that, whatever I could do to get some more money and, keep things rolling around, especially during the 2009 to
Yeah.
call it 2012 period. But that taught me a lot. It taught me about, getting work. It taught me about
Yeah.
collecting money, which we all know is probably one of the hardest part. My dad would always say the two hardest parts of the job are getting the work and collecting the money. Doing the work is easy. I don't know that I agree with that middle part a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
work that can kind of be a little bit demoralizing to the people doing the work. But those are two important parts, and it also teaches you when you're doing your own work that this is me. If something goes wrong, um, if there's a mistake, I'm not going to get yelled at by my boss. I'm going to get in some real trouble. Um,
Yeah.
and getting insurance and all those things. So I actually do encourage a lot of our staff to go do some freelance work. Like, it's not like if you're going to do an apartment renovation for somebody that's going to break our firm. So go do it and go take those lessons because it's only going to make you better in your career.
Wow. That's awesome. There's a message that I would, I don't know that you would bottle this up and send it to our audience, but I will, which is, hustle plus adaptability
Yeah,
equals success. There's something in there where if you're willing to work hard and do whatever it takes, within the realm of what's ethical, do whatever
for
it
sure.
takes to succeed, and adapt to your realities, you can win.
Yeah, it's a fair statement. And it's got me in trouble. It's definitely got me in some trouble over the years here and there. But like my mom would say, everything happens for a reason.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the cool work that you guys are doing, and our audience, as I've shared with you, is we have a lot of contractors, certainly members of the design community as well. Who we hear a lot about repositioning in this world where there's a lot, particularly in large cities, where things the footprint is full. There's not a lot of open fields to build in these environments. And, it stands to reason that there ought to be, in a lot of these repositioning cases, some savings that, keep you from having to mess with the site so much, keep you from having to mess with the structure so much, and ultimately allow you to convert existing space that may be, vacant or underutilized or underperforming in some way, and turn it into something that is new and fresh and exciting. You guys have done a ton of this work.
For
We
sure.
talked, yeah, we talked about specifically a project called TSX Broadway as a good example of New York City repositioning. I thought that was a really cool story. Talk a little bit about the TSX Broadway project.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, listen, these projects, they're great. It makes use, to your point, it makes use of existing real estate. It's, it's a greener option than throwing a bunch of building materials in a landfill and starting over. And they are super, super complicated. And every repositioning project I've done have always been the hardest ones. It's kind of easy to plop a new building in a field somewhere, but just like you said, there's not a lot of fields, especially in Manhattan. So this project involved taking the Palace. The Palace Theater was a historic theater from it was from the vaudeville days. Judy Garland performed there and the like. In the 80s, they built a series of trusses up on top of it, around it, and put a DoubleTree hotel. That hotel lived there, and the theater, but that renovation didn't really think much about changing the theater. The theater was accessed, like most theaters, from Times Square through a narrow lobby. If anybody's been to a Broadway show, you know what I'm talking about, where a lot of people congregate and try and get in and out. And, somebody like me would get into an argument with somebody because they bumped into each other. What we did was we renovated that project by removing the DoubleTree Hotel, and then taking the Palace Theater and raising it 30 feet from where its original space was. The complication of that, so the easiest way to do that would have been just demolish everything around the theater and lift the darn thing up and call it a day. But because the zoning had changed in New York City, we would have lost a significant amount of square footage. So we needed to keep the project as an alteration. And in order to do that, we need to keep 25% of the structure of the existing building. So what we did was and I say I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of people. I mean, just on my team alone over the year, this is like a 7 or 8 year process. There's probably about 30 to 40 people that worked on this and deserve all the credit, quite frankly. But we scooped out a cellar and a sub-cellar below the theater in which to put hydraulic jack and the whole system the company that did that, Urban Engineering, that did the lift itself was really, really just amazing. And then the structural engineer, Severy, who came up with some of the ways of doing this was crazy. But again, two amazing partners on this. But we put hydraulic jacks from the cellar. And then from there, what we had to do was, because we had to keep so much of the structure, we had to have a place for the theater to go. So in order to do that, there was a 6-foot box girder that spanned the entire length of the building. And the purpose of that girder was to support the hotel on top of it, which was a newly constructed hotel, which is a Tempo by Hilton, the first one of those that was opened, as well as hang the floors below, because we needed to create this space for the theater to go and then come in. So all of that, it seems pretty easy, but
It does not sound easy.
It was. I feel like I'm glazing over it, but I could go on for hours. But yeah, listen, I mean, amazing team. Everybody from the client down to the guys doing the work. I mean, there's so many challenges involved with this. Not to mention the fact that as soon as they started demolishing the building, this thing called COVID happened. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, with the exception of I think a week or two, thankfully New York City deemed hotels as an essential use, so we were able to continue work. But I mean, my whole team was going into everybody was kind of sitting at home in their sweatpants. Our team was in there every day going into work. The team
That's
that was
awesome.
building it was in there. It was amazing. So what you have now is you have this theater that's accessed via 47th Street from a small lobby. It takes you up to a beautiful lobby on the 3rd floor in which you enter the hotel. I'm sorry, pardon me, the theater.
The
with all
theater,
new
yeah.
front of
Yep.
the theater has been fully restored by another firm. The theater was fully restored to, honestly, it was, I don't know, I wasn't alive 100 years ago, but it looks pretty awesome from, I would imagine it what it looked like back then. And it was just an amazing project, and I'm honored
Yeah.
to be a part of it.
I know what my next weekend is going to be, where we're going to go and where we're going to stay. That'll be cool. I'd love to actually check that out with my own eyes. It sounds incredible. What role did virtual reality play in a project like this? And then after this, we'll kind of extract out to like what you foresee coming and what you're doing on projects. I know this started back in 2016 for you.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, 2016 is right around when um, Michael Kipfer, one of my coworkers, came to us with the idea of basically kicking my partner out of his office and setting up a VR lab, as well as other things. And with through early adoption of that, he brought in some other folks who were actual computer programmers to start writing our own software. So that was all kind of happening at the same time. And at the point where we started actually using it on projects, we said, hey, was like, hey, you know what? We have this crazy Revit model from this project that is kind of, existed in different forms over the years. Can we bring this into the software? So we have our own patented software that ties VR into Revit, more in a live environment than what a lot of other folks do. So
Cool.
we were able to bring that in there, import everything, and really start to see where the conflicts existed in real life, rather than going through overlays like you were doing back in the old day, or even Navisworks or clash detection. We were able, when you walk through and you're walking through a stair and there's a beam that shouldn't be there, or there's a pipe that you would hit your virtual head on or something like that, it becomes obvious and there's kind of nowhere to hide.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
awesome.
was it was helpful in all that coordination.
I
And
love
that
I
was
love that in obviously this is the whole mission, right? It's a whole hell of a lot easier to make mistakes in a virtual reality than it is in a physical
oh, yeah,
one. They're way less expensive and way less painful when you hit your virtual head. Um,
exactly.
right. And what role is VR playing for you guys on current projects and into the future? What's happening?
So it's really altered our entire design process. We call it our 360 process. We bring people in now to the entire process. We strip it back. So, in the past, what we would have done was we would take the drawings and we'd make them look nice, and we'd throw some renderings in there, and we would go in InDesign and spell check everything and put it in a nice little format for everybody. We don't do any of that now. Now what we do is we bring people right into our office, or we bring them on site with using AR, and we walk them right through the model, and we have options for them. We design options, whether it's this looks like this looks like that. By way of example, we did a vehicle maintenance garage, and it's funny, in the interview, the client asked if they could drive the vehicles through the garage in VR. And I was like, yeah, sure. And came back. I was like, guys, here's my credit card number so you
Yeah.
figure out how
Hey, I
to.
just signed us up for this.
Go buy one of those video game steering wheels. And sure enough, they did. And because it's our own software, they were able to alter it. And by the time we got into SD, we were able to sit down and virtually drive a vehicle through there. And to your point, we noticed that the general flow of things from the vehicle, while it looked great on a 2D set of drawings, felt kind of weird for somebody driving through, and kind of got you to an odd point. And we were able to make that change early on before anybody did anything. And it was super helpful just by having somebody come in and drive through. But AR has been huge for us now, because we're able to adapt our software. So we go through the site. You can go into an empty room or a building or whatever it is and put those goggles on and see what it's going to look like, and flip through options and make. We were we had an executive entrance for a company, and I had been warned ahead of time that some of the decision makers take a little bit of time, and we were able to, by walking everybody through there, maybe in like 90 seconds, get everybody on the same page and be like, yep, I get it, this is the one, let's go with that. I mean, it's especially helpful with our restaurants, because restaurateurs have definite opinions on how close or far tables should be from each other, um, what the chef needs to see,
Yeah,
what the
no
line
doubt.
cook needs to see, all those things. And we were able to, we've been able to do it in VR, and now we're able to do it in AR, where we go to that space and they can see exactly what it looks like. So it's been huge for us. And honestly, it's led to so much more success in projects, because clients have that buy-in early on. What I always, early in my career, what would always be so disheartening would be when a project would be complete or almost complete. The client would walk through and they'd be like, look up at the ceiling or something. Be like, I didn't know it was going to look like that.
Ugh.
And, and you're like, well, dude, here's the drawing and you signed off on it.
But gosh,
But
it's so hard for, I mean, so
yeah, but
just
how is that fair?
right. Yeah, it's so true.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair. No, it's not fair. It's but it's a technology gap in the way that our brains work. It's just impossible to envision for some folks. Like just ask my wife. I can't
100%.
I can't envision anything. Like when my wife is like, "What do you think of this recliner?" I'm like, "Will it fit in the house? I don't even know. I don't know. Is it too big? Is it too like I don't have. I'm one of those people that just. But if you drop me into that, I mean, what you just described sounds so excellent from a customer experience standpoint. But it does lead me to a question, which is this? I mean, you mentioned some applications that don't sound like people have unlimited budgets for design, right? Like, a vehicle maintenance facility, a restaurant. I don't have bazillions of dollars if I'm building a restaurant for the most part. I mean, some of them do, right? But just, is this accessible? Like, how much more expensive are you? Is I guess what I'm trying to figure out.
That's the funny thing is we're not. It actually saves us money. Because first of all, we're taking a lot of the fanfare out of it. That's kind of useless, in my opinion. Of instead of somebody sitting there and working on a rendering and making sure that the moonlight is shining on the water and there's like there's a different duck in every pond or something like that. What we're doing is we're just getting it to a point where you can see what it is and putting it out there. And the fact of the matter is we get clients to make decisions quickly. So what, a normal architect would do in 2 to 3 weeks, we're doing in one like 2 to 3 hour meeting.
Oh my God.
So there is no, there's no upcharge for it. We as you know, architecture has been a bit commoditized over the years.
It has.
So as much as it would be great to dictate fees and say we're going to charge what we charge and all that good stuff, we are kind of limited by what our competition and what people are willing to spend on it. So this is a way for us to remain competitive and give a little bit more than hopefully some of our competitors are doing.
No, that's incredible. What I as a professional services business owner myself, right? That's what I mean. I'm a consultant, right? So very very similar kind of experience in terms of how you make money, how you bill, how you have to be competitive, you have to be fairly priced, those types of things. At the end of the day, your customer's buying a result. And if you're able to deliver that result faster and in a way where the customer's even happier with that result, and that happens to save you money, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
How incredible is that? What a win-win-win. So I love it. I think is this, do you do it like on every project? Is this just like SOP for
the
you
most
guys?
part? Yeah, for the most part, it's just how we operate.
Wow.
And so we even do it for those projects where we'll act as an architect of record, and we'll partner with another design firm and bring their vision into there as well. We work on both sides of the field with that.
Sure.
And again, it's extraordinarily helpful for everybody. And to your point, once in a while you get to work on a project where money's no object, but that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah.
And you have to be thoughtful in where you spend money, where you spend people's money, and how you spend money. And this is a way of getting people's buy-in. Where if you're going to pick a spot, if it's an office, by way of example, if you're going to say you're going to have the most kick-ass pantry gathering space you've ever had, and everything else is going to be fairly modest, you can get their buy-in. So when it's built, they walk in there like Jesus, this sucks. You don't want to hear that,
Yeah. No, that's last thing on this. I'm imagining that the thing that was more expensive was building this capacity, building your software, putting together the tech, like all that kind of stuff. So I guess maybe maybe not even a question, just a comment that for you guys to make the decision at some point, you had to delay gratification. You had to set aside your own, goals for paying partners, and
For sure.
and everybody had to buy into the idea that we're gonna be a better business that can be more attractive to the market and maybe even be more profitable in the future if we make these investments. And if we don't make these investments, we know what that game looks like. We just stay in
Right.
this exact same cycle. So I applaud you guys for recognizing that, reinvesting in the business. That there are a lot of professional services into companies, particularly where the partner demand for getting their cash out every year is much greater than the desire to grow the business. So that's a big deal.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's again, listen, we're also, we're also not bashful about rolling things out. The version we have now is nothing like the versions we had 5 years ago, which
Right.
were nothing like the versions 2 years before that. So it's ever evolving, and we're not bashful about bringing clients in and being like, "Hey, we're trying something out. Let's go for it." And quite frankly, people like it. Clients are generally really smart people and know what they're doing. Architects have a way of thinking that they're above certain things because we can read drawings, we have these visions, but these are really smart people that, quite frankly, don't necessarily do this every day and don't also want to be burdened with
That's right.
with spending
I
time
don't.
on this.
Yeah.
They have
If
businesses
I'm
to run.
just because I'm building this facility doesn't mean I want to learn how to read plans. Just
Exactly.
walk me
Exactly.
through it, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
last area that I want to go through, and then I'm sure Stacy has some follow-ons. What's the net impact for the construction community? How do the contractors, right? Like you came from a family of contractors. If a
Mhm.
project is designed the way that you're designing it, is there any appreciable benefit or in any way, lack of benefit for contractors?
Both. So listen, we always encourage our clients to bring in a construction professional as soon as possible. Because when they can come in and they can see what it is, they're going to see things that we don't necessarily see because they're looking
100%.
at it through a
Always.
different lens.
Yep.
And again, the best projects I've ever worked on, the most successful ones, have all been through collaboration with the entire team. Like I said, I grew up in a little bit of a unique circumstance with my dad. There is this. A lot of architects have this air about them that we're above people. We're all on the same team and we're all doing the same thing, and none of us are going to function without the success of the other. So bringing them in early in this process is super helpful. Now, having said that, we build these amazing models with all these features you can walk through, you can do all these things. And at the end of the day, we still flatten them out in PDFs.
Turn them into plans.
In some
Yep.
cases, still print them out on drawings and send them in to be reviewed. And then the guys in the field either have it on iPad or physical paper. So that the next logical step, quite frankly, is figuring out how to build directly from a Revit model. And
Yeah.
we're giving the contractor the Revit model, and we're not even dimensioning it. Whether they're projection mapping it, and we've talked to a few different partners on this of rolling out some tests with that. But that's really the next the next move from what I see, because we're literally at the end of the day, even though you're in the field with an iPad, which is really cool compared to a big old set of drawings, it's no different than my grandfather rolling out a set of plans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the
It's
same
just
same
it's
darn
the
thing.
same. It's the same way we're building today. It is.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so. Contractor input remains critical
Oh, of course.
to having surprise-free construction project, right? Or
Early and often.
do you ever involved in design build projects?
Yes, we do quite a bit of them, and I'm a huge fan. I think
Yeah.
it's, again, the more we
Notably
can get,
improved.
the more we can get everybody's involvement and buy-in, the better, and everybody on the same team. The worst projects I've ever been a part of have had adversarial relationship
Yeah.
between the design consultants and the contractors. And quite frankly, a lot of that's usually been on purpose by the client. But
Yeah, why don't we list some of those bad customers? No, I'm joking. I'm kidding. Yeah. But I agree. I think there's nothing that will correct misaligned incentives, and
Yeah.
and somebody trying
Nope.
to hurt somebody, right? If there's a
For sure.
desire out there to do that, but certainly what you guys are doing in terms of involving technology and design and involving collaboration with your stakeholders gives you the ability to hopefully create a consistently better experience for everybody on the job. I love what you're doing. I'm thrilled to hear somebody. If I could be so direct, somebody on the design side that's just like a regular dude. That's pretty cool too.
I don't know why that's so. I know I hear that a lot. I don't know why that's so
Well, they're
weird.
so smart. They're so smart. Yeah, Bill's like, not me. That might not.
I mean,
No, but I do. I think there is. I think there is kind of a traditional expectation, for architects to be,
For sure.
kind of operating in a certain way. And it's clear to me that you guys are low ego, mission and people forward, and willing to invest and break the rules for the good of the project, which is that's pretty cool stuff.
Are you describing
Yeah.
integrated project delivery then?
We've done those as well. We've done
Okay.
a lot of aviation work has been like that. Again, huge fan of it. It's great. Everybody wins.
It's just like a super intense design build where everybody's like not just in a design build contract together, but they have a financial tie to project success or failure. So you could not be more aligned in an IPD contract, theoretically.
Agreed. And they're great. Again, the more alignment we can have between everybody, we're all on the same team, and the more we can just get rid of that crappy adversarial relationship that's existed forever, the better.
Mhm.
Yeah, no kidding. Stacey, what else you got?
Yeah. I guess just one question. You talked about diversifying your portfolio, aviation, life sciences, restaurants. What about other industries that you want to tap into, like data centers or?
So yeah, I mean, and just to be clear, we still do large scale, high end commercial interiors like Mancini is always known for.
Right.
But yeah, so we're still doing what the core business was. But yeah, data center for sure. It's going to be huge. Listen, the president just announced a huge government investment in that coming up. It's everywhere. No matter how much I'm terrified of becoming like Neo from the Matrix or something with all this AI technology, Skynet's going to happen. We might as well try and already be a part of it. Yeah, data centers is a huge target for us for sure.
Yeah,
And,
lots of.
Where are the
Yeah.
data centers out in the New York area, or are they in like Jersey?
There's some. I mean, the large scale data centers, I don't believe you're going to see there because, quite frankly, the power grid can't handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, the power grid can't handle all these electric cars that they want us to buy.
Mhm.
It's and we could go into a whole.
Well, we
rant on that,
we
but yeah,
definitely need investments in our infrastructure, our power
100%.
infrastructure. It's essential, and I've seen some pretty neat stuff with those kind of miniature nuclear facilities.
Yeah,
being
those.
a real option there. But what I believe coming away from this conversation is that if it can be done and you have somebody on your team who's fired up about it, I wouldn't be surprised to see you in that space.
That's where we're trying to get into. And again, we have some experience, but these huge, massive things that they want to build now. The good news is that nobody has that experience because it hasn't been done.
Right. Yeah. So it's really just down to like capabilities
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So,
Yep.
Well, I thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Huddle, Bill. This is a great conversation.
Thank you.
And wish you absolutely all the best. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks. Have a good one.
See you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and if anyone listening, I would definitely check out their website and their case studies because I was briefly looking.
It's so cool.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really, really wonderful, and I put myself in the contractor's shoes naturally, right? That's my world,
Mhm.
and I can imagine in a collaborative design process with a tech like they're doing, particularly on complicated projects, it's a huge relief to start construction with that kind of design quality. So thoughtful design. Stacey, who we have coming on next week?
So next week we have Rashir from ScaleCAD app joining us, and it's an online self-paced accredited trade program.
Cool.
So I'm excited. You're not going to be here next week,
I
right?
am not going to be. I'll be at a conference.
Okay.
Who's co-hosting with you?
I think it's just going to be me.
No way. You got to get a buddy.
I could get a buddy. I could call Tom Hughes.
Well, yeah. Tom will be. I don't need an all Philly show. You know what? Don't bring Tom on.
No, I think I might need emotional support. We don't know what.
Well, you got no game next week. You're all right. You got 2 weeks. You're okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Stacey, thank you so much as always. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. I'll see you.
See ya.